praise Him? Yeah. If you don't, the rocks will. Did you know that? I don't want a rock doing what God created me to do. Do you? Oh, listen, it's wonderful. Hey, that's what we'll do throughout all eternity is praise Him. Isn't that something for me? And it's wonderful. You know, a lot of people think, well, when I get there, I'll look it over and think, well, I got to be for all eternity. I'll tell you about heaven. It's a constant, continual revealing of the glory of God. You never get to the depth of it. You never get to the breadth of it. He continues to reveal how glorious He is. Even the angels that are around Him, they cry what? Holy, holy, holy. And I'm telling you, have you ever found a verse in the Bible you know it's there, but you don't? You know that you don't know what it means? Here's one. Psalms 46, 10, 11 says, "Be still and know that I am God." Does that mean be emotionless? Nah. It's a strange word. It's the word be breathless. It's what happened to John the Revelator when he turned to see the voice in Revelation chapter 1. Remember he heard a voice behind him? And he turned to see, and he saw the resurrected Redeemer. And what did he do? It says he fell at His feet as though He were dead. Now I'm going to give you a prophetic word. This word's going to blast across the body of Christ from one place to the other. Here's the coming word to this earth. You ready? Yep. Awestruck. Awestruck. I'll tell you what's missing in the house of God. Is the awe of God. A-W-E. A-W-E, the holy reverential fear of the Lord. But you better get ready. I'm prophesying now. The whole earth is about to become awestruck. God is about to reveal Himself in such a manner all flesh falls to the ground. All flesh falls before the glory of God. Every knee shall bow, and every tongue shall confess He's the Lord. I'm telling you, our problem is we're way too familiar with the God we barely know. Way too familiar with the God we barely know. Do you believe there's a great gap between intimacy and familiarity? Yes. So that's the problem. We're way too familiar with the God we barely know. Example, Mark chapter 4, Jesus says to His disciples, now the disciples, most of them before they were disciples were fishermen, correct? They were used to the wind, the waves, the water, all that kind of stuff. And Jesus said to them, boys, get in the boat. We're going to the other side. Remember the story? Jesus gets in the boat, Mark chapter 4, and he goes to sleep in the back of the boat on a pillow. But a horrendous storm comes. A storm, big, bad, I'm telling you, it's awful. It says the waves beat into the boat till it was almost full and about to sink. And the disciples, they look at Jesus and scream, Master, get up! Don't you care we're going to perish? Now, remember now, Jesus gets up, the wind's howling, waves are slashing, lightning flashing. It's horrendous. These guys that were fishermen, now they're just terrified. And Jesus gets up. I don't like the King James in this one. It says it almost in poetic stone. He says, peace be still. That's not what he said. The storm, the whole thing is just high pitched. And here's what Jesus said. You want to know what He said? When He stood and watched the waves, He said, shut up and lay down. That's exactly what He said. Get gagged is literally what He said. And what does the wind do? It just dies down, and the whole sea becomes as tranquil as glass. Praise God. But let's look at the boys now. They're horrified of the storm, but they're petrified of who's in the boat. That's what it says. It says they were horrified of the storm, but petrified. What manner of man is this? What manner of man is this, that even the winds and the waves obey Him? See, way too familiar. I don't want us to fall into the same category as them. What caused them to be fearful? Number one, they failed to listen to what Jesus said. Get in the boat. We are going to the other side. I didn't hear anything about Coast Guard rescue. I didn't hear anything about 911. I didn't hear anything about resuscitation. Get in. We're going. Number two, not only did they forget what God said, they didn't really know who was in their vessel. Who's in your vessel? Wow. Good. Greater is He that's in you. It is Christ in us, the assurance of glory. We need to realize we're in Him and He's in us, assuring us victory. Isn't that cool? So I don't want us to fall prey to being way too familiar. See, we've learned verbiage. It's not enough to talk that we've got to learn to walk it. Paul said, my speech and my preaching was not with the enticing words of man's wisdom, but in a demonstration of the Spirit's power. In 1 Corinthians 2, yes it is. And brethren, I was with you in weakness and in fear and much trembling. My speech and my preaching was not with enticing words of man's wisdom, but it was in a demonstration of the Spirit's power. Verse 5 says, so that your faith would not stand in the intellectual preface of a man, but rather in the power of God. Amen. Guys, we need to realize it's not enough to learn Christian language. We need to learn how to walk what the Bible says. You believe it? Throw that verse up. If we got it, can we do that tonight? Put the verses up. What do you think? We'll give it a shot. You want to? 1 Corinthians, if you would. 1 Corinthians chapter 2. And this is that verse I just quoted. 1 Corinthians chapter 2. 1 Corinthians 2. Oh no. Oh no. Yeah, it'll pop up there in a moment. I took them by surprise. But he talks about his preaching was not with eloquent words. Could have Paul wowed them with words? Oh, Paul could have wowed them with words. It says he was tutored by Gamaliel. Here's what Paul says about himself. He says, I was a Pharisee of the Pharisees. Touching the law, I was blameless. Yeah. What in God's name does that mean? Oh, it meant he kept 480 Levitical laws a day. Wow. It meant that he could quote the first 5 books of the Bible. Pharisee of the Pharisees, touching the law, blameless. Isn't that something? Mm-hmm. And it's tutored at the feet of Gamaliel. That would be studying at the highest colleges. Mm-hmm. But he said, I chose not to try to wow you with words, but I wanted to show you the deeds of God. Here it is. Just start with verse 1, if you don't mind. This will be fun. 1 Corinthians chapter 2. And brethren, when I came to you, I came not with excellency of speech or wisdom, declaring unto you the testimony of God. Next one. Right? For I determined not to know anything among you except Jesus Christ and Him crucified. Basic message. Next one. And I was with you in weakness and in fear and in much trembling. Verse 4. And my speech and my preaching was not with enticing words of man's wisdom, but in the demonstration of the Spirit and of power. Verse 5. So that your faith would not stand in the wisdom of man, but rather in the power of God. Amen. Oh, boy. I like that, don't you? Yes. And you get around a lot of people, they're trying to wow people with their education. Yeah. They're always quoting doctor this, doctor that. Why don't we quote Jesus? Amen. I mean, the Word of God is sufficient, isn't it? I'll tell you what, I don't like psychology, and I don't like, I'm not wild about theology. I don't like psychology. It always raises questions, never gives an answer. The Bible never raises a question without releasing an answer. Never. Anytime he raises a question, boom, he'll give the answer. Example, Psalms 24, 3 and 4. Who shall ascend into the hill of the Lord? Question. Answer, he that had clean hands and a pure heart. Isn't that cool? Yes. I like this, don't you? You believe that the church has been suffering under misdiagnosis? We can't survive another day through misdiagnosis. Remember the church in the book of Revelation, the church of Laodicea? It says they examined themselves and said, we're rich and increased in goods and we have need of nothing. And Jesus said, strange. When I looked at you, I saw you naked, wretched, miserable, poor, and blind. I don't know about you, it seems like there's a gap in opinions. Now the word Laodicea, a Greek word called Laodicea, means governed by the group. It's a people-run church. A church that is run so tight by the people till God's on the outside. He's not even in there. Whoa, I don't want to be a part of a people-run church, do you? It says Jesus is on the outside knocking. If any man hears... Now, you don't have to be a rocket scientist. You realize if somebody's on the outside knocking, wanting in, you can deduce saying in. Behold, I stand at the door and knock. If anyone hears my voice and opens the door, I will come in. You don't have to be real, real smart to realize that if he's knocking out on the door, wanting in, he ain't in. No. You know why he's not in the church of Laodicea? The guys that governed him out. Governed him out. But it says, now do you like to study facts in the Bible? Yes. Here's a fact. I want to find out what was the most repetitive statement recorded in the Bible from the lips of Jesus. That should be important. What is the thing Jesus repeated himself about more than any other subject? Here it is. You ready? He that hath an ear to hear, let him hear what the Spirit says to the church. Most repeated words out of the lips of Jesus. Here's the next one. It has been said unto you, but I say unto you. Two most repeated statements recorded in your Bible from the lips of Jesus. So it's important to hear his communication in it. So we can't just determine we're all right within ourselves. So that church of Laodicea that he said, you're naked, wretched, miserable, poor, and blind, who thought they were rich, increased in goods, and had need of nothing. Here's his next word to them. My advice to you is come to me. Wow. Well, the next verse says, my advice to you is come to me, and you'll have to hit me with this word. B-U-Y. Buy. Buy from me gold tried in the fire. Buy from me white raiment to cover your nakedness. Buy from me, I say, that you may see. See, everything we have need of, he has supply, if we're willing to pay the price. This coming revival of being awestruck is going to cost us. Now, remember John, the Revelator? Best friend Jesus ever had. John the Revelator. It says in your Bible, he laid his head on the chest of Jesus and heard the heartbeat of the Son of God. He's the disciple in whom the Lord loved. Now, in the book of Revelation, Revelation chapter 1, John the Revelator is somewhere around 92 to 98 years old. Best friend Jesus ever had. Josephus, the historian, tells us he had been boiled in oil. They tried to assassinate him, tried to kill him, boiled him in oil. And the Romans put him on the Isle of Patmos, a 9-mile-long rock island where they put their prisoners. This is the best friend of Jesus. Here he is at the end of his life. He's been boiled in oil. Can you imagine what he must have looked like? There he is, and he's old, and he's a prisoner in a penal colony. I went to the Isle of Patmos. I want to see what it's like. So I went to the Isle of Patmos. It's a 9-mile-long, rugged rock thing, island, and it's where the Romans would put their prisoners to quarry out the rocks to build their fortresses and all this. It's not a pretty place, not a good place. That's where John was. Said, I was on the Isle of Patmos, Revelation chapter 1, and he said, I heard a voice behind me. He said, when I heard the voice behind me, I turned to see the source. Now, who does he see? The ruling, reigning Redeemer. Does he go, hey dude, been missing you? Nope. It says he does something. Oh, he's awestruck. He falls to the ground as though he were dead. You look at in the Greek, it says almost that he was dead. Awestruck. Best friend ever. But he's seeing him in a whole new dimension. Get ready, church. Get ready, saint. You are about to be introduced to Jesus in a whole new dimension. We need it. We need it. I tell you, we come to church expecting not to expect. When this awestruck comes, you won't miss a service. You'll come with your heart's man. My God, no telling what he'll do. I'm telling you guys. Here's what Jesus did. He walked up to me one day, just like I'm walking up to you. He said, I give you my personal permission to attempt to exaggerate what I'm about to do. I said to him, I don't need a verse for that. He said to me, no problem. Ephesians 3, 20 and 21. Ephesians 3, 20 and 21. Now, I'm either lying or Jesus Christ walked up to me. Now, I'm going to tell you something. If you think you've got to die to see Jesus, you better read your Bible. I'm telling you guys, this little fairy tale Jesus we're hearing a lot about, hey, he's real. Paul saw him. I'm telling you guys. Well, okay, anyway. A lot of people, they go, I don't, what? Yeah, I have encounters with Jesus. He talks to me, he comes to me. When I say I have an encounter with Jesus, he's as real as this guy right here, only realer. It's not some figment of your imagination. When I say Jesus came to visit, I mean Jesus came to visit. Can I tell you about it? It's all the absolute truth. Back in the early 90s, a man asked my wife a question. Said, do you think if I built a cabin up in the mountains of Moravian Falls, North Carolina, Bobby would come and stay? My wife said to him, that's a question you'll need to ask Bobby. He asked me, if I built you a cabin up in the mountains of Moravian Falls, North Carolina, would you come stay there? I said, that's a question I'll have to ask Jesus. I asked Jesus. Jesus said, yes, I want you to go. I said to him, yes, I would. You build me a cabin, I'll come stay there someday. All right, the man builds a cabin in the mountains of Moravian Falls, North Carolina. You ought to study it. The place where my house is, the man that Zinzendorf, the guy that started the Moravian movement, got it in the 1700s and deeded it to Jesus Christ. Wow. The Moravians have had a 100-year prayer meeting 24 hours a day for 100 years. Zinzendorf. Well, anyway. So, here we go. The guy finishes the cabin. I go up there and we're going to dedicate the cabin. No human being has ever stayed in this cabin. Just a little cabin in the mountains of Moravian Falls. Here's the man that built the cabin. We're dedicating the cabin. It's about, I suppose, maybe 8:30 in the afternoon. Maybe a little bit 8:45. And so I've got him by the hands. He's several years older than me. So I got him by the hands and we're praying, dedicating the cabin. Oh, Lord, thank you. And in the midst of the dedication, you hear strong steps walking behind me. Zoom, 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 walking up the stairs. Now, we're the only two people there. So he squeezes my hands real hard. He said, I got to go home, hadn't I? I said, yeah, you've got to go home. So he drives off. No other house is built up there. This is isolated up in the mountains of North Carolina. Here's what happens. So he goes off. I go in there. There's a fireplace right there, crackling fire burning. I sit down on a seat right there, a little couch, and I'm watching the fire burn, thinking, oh, Lord. And I hear a noise out on the front porch. Out on the porch, I hear a little sound, a little noise. And I thought, that's strange. I'm by myself. So I get up, walk out on the porch, and there's 14 or 18 angels on the porch. They're dressed like pilgrims because the Moravians stationed them there in the 1700s. Their first question to me was, what took you so long? See, they'd had no commission till we showed up. What took you so long? And so I'll just show you how spiritual I am. I start playing with the angels out on the front porch. They jump off the porch 8 or 9 feet, jump back on. No restriction to space and time like we are. They'd swing around on the thing. They'd swing on the porch swings. They'd sit in the rocking chairs and rock. And we're having a good time, just messing around. I'm just messing around with these angels. 14 to 18 of them, but they move so fast you couldn't get a head count. You better listen to me. I'm telling you absolute truth. I'm telling you something that you'll be awestruck if you'll believe it. So here's what happened. I'm out there and I'm fraternizing with these angels for maybe an hour and 20 minutes. Then all of a sudden this group gets quiet. I look and they're gone, and this group's gone. I'm standing back on the porch by myself. Can't see an angel now. So I go back in, I take my seat there, and I beat myself up. I think, good Lord, I should have been more mature than that. I should have been seeking and inquiring and asking. Remember that? But I wasn't. I was out there playing with them, having a good time with them. I'm honest to God, man. I'm telling you the honest to God truth. So I'm sitting there beating myself up. Wham, wham, wham! A knock came on the front door. Scared me. My heart jumped up in my throat. And I said, come in. A little bitty weasel kind of voice. Come in. Scared me. And a voice said with total authority, no, you must come out. Now here's what's going to stretch you. Either I'm lying. I get up, open the door. There stands Jesus Christ. The Son of God, not a vision, not a trance. There stands Jesus with a bottle in his hand that looks much like a champagne bottle. And he said to me, we're going to have a christening service, but you don't know anything about christening. And he walked right by me. Didn't stop in the living room where the fire was crackling. He walked straight down the hall, turned down the other hall, and went into the bedroom. There's the bedroom. And before I could say a single word, I'm following him. And he takes the bottle and he goes, wham! And he hits the wall. The bottle shatters into billions of pieces, and there's an oily substance running down the wall. I didn't say it, I thought it. I thought, oh my God. How am I going to explain to the man that built this cabin the first night his wall is destroyed? Guess what Jesus said? I thought it. He answered me out loud. He said, you never have to apologize or attempt to explain what I do. Look. So I looked at the oil running down the wall, and it turned into a map of the world. You've seen a map of the continents of the world. It's all the way across the wall. And Jesus would take a finger and touch a continent, and it would light up. Touch a continent, light up. Touch a place, light up, light up. He said, you can only target what I target, or you'll become a target. And he talked to me for hours and hours. And then he left. I'll tell you, when he left, every hair on my body stood out straight like this. Every hair on my body. Have you ever seen those machines you can touch and it looks like you've been electrocuted? You know, it was like that for days. I'd wash my hair. Hair on my arm stick out, every hair on me. I'm telling you guys, people's come by the tens of thousands to see that cabinet. It's true. See, the Moravians left the angels there. They kicked an open heaven. You believe there's places on the earth there's an open heaven? That's one right there. When we first got there, there was so much angel activity. You put your hands on the ground like that, pick it up, it would glow. Pick up a stick, hold it up like that. There'd be enough light off of a stick that you could walk in the dark. Okay. And people started moving into that region. But I will tell you what, guys. We need to understand the Lord is real. It says we need to arouse to reality. Can I read your passage? Romans 13:11. Romans 13:11. I'll read it out of this Amplified version because it really does have a punch to it. You can put it up there if you'd like, but I want you to read it hear it out of this. Romans 13:11. Paul says, besides this, you know what a critical hour this is. How it is high time now for you to wake up out of your sleep. Rouse to reality. For salvation, final deliverance, is nearer to us now than when we first believed, adhered to, trusted in, and relied upon Christ the Messiah. The night is far gone. The day is almost here. Let us then drop and fling away from us the works and the deeds of darkness. And let us put on the full armor of light. Verse 13, let us live and conduct ourselves honorably and becomingly as the open light of day, not in reveling and carousing and debauchery. He said, let's live like we're real Christians. You want to? Yeah. That's what we got to do, guys. There it is. Let us walk honestly as in the day, not rioting and drunkenness, nor in clamoring and wantonness, not in strife and envy. But look what it says. Look what it says in verse 14. But clothe yourself with the Lord Jesus Christ the Messiah, and make no provisions for the indulgence of the flesh. See, isn't that something? Say yes. Yes. It's high time to rouse to reality. Yes. You believe the church in America needs to rouse to reality? Yes. I'll show you how we need to rouse to reality. There's churches ordaining professing homosexuals to be their minister. Hey, we need to wake up and rouse to reality. See, but it seems like, well, you know, you're supposed to be loving and tolerant. No, we're supposed to be more concerned about being biblically accurate than politically correct. We've got to be more concerned about being biblically accurate than being concerned about being politically correct. The Bible said, if I attempt to please men, I will not please God that called me. That's what it says. I'm telling you guys, it's come down to the nitty-gritty. We've got to stand up for what we believe. You believe it? It's time to get bolder in our faith. Well, you know, I don't want to offend people. I had preachers say, hey, don't come on too strong. You might drive them away. Where are you going to drive them? Hell 1, hell 2? Hey, they're lost. They don't know where to drive them. You know what I mean? Our problem is we're too cowardly to tell the truth. That's the truth. Well, I don't want to be pushy. Well, go ahead and push. Go ahead and push a little. I tell you, when it comes time to birth, you have to push. Is that true? That's what it says. I can show you in the Bible. It says that it's time to push. Push. Have you push? Pray, P, until something happens. Push. That's an acronym. Is that what they call it? I went to school. I really know all this stuff. Push. Say push. Pray until something happens. It's time to push the spirit realm. I'll guarantee you. You believe it? That's what our brother's singing about. Got to get a little bolder than we are. A little bolder. Amen. Well, anyway, so that's not the message tonight. That's just warm up. See if you're really here. Here's what I want to tell you. I want to tell you what a difference one day can make. That's what I'm here. I'm going to tell you. I've got a message I want to share with you about don't lose hope. The Bible said there's hope for a tree. Though it be cut down and its stump is rotting in the ground, at the scent of moisture, it'll sprout and bud. That's what it says in the Bible. Wow. Do you like to find obscure passages nobody ever preaches out of? I do. Here's one. If your axe is dull, you have to swing harder. That's in the Bible. If your axe is dull, you have to swing harder. Ecclesiastes 10:10. Here's another one. You ready? It says, you've poured me out like milk, but you curdled me like cheese. Now, my God, you're not going to find a whole series on that. I don't care whose church it is. You've poured me out like milk, but you've curdled me like cheese. What does that mean? That's Job 10:10. I'll tell you what it means. You went from a liquid to a solid, from a splatter to a matter. You know how you got here biologically, don't you? That's what it's talking about. You poured me out like milk, but you curdled me. The next verse says, and you put skin, bone, flesh. In other words, He gave us a body for a purpose. He gave you a body for the same reason He gave His Son a body. To make an invisible God known. Who's Jesus just like? Colossians 1:15, He's exactly like the Father. Colossians 1:15 says Christ is the express image of the invisible God. What does the word invisible mean? Can't see it. Good. Colossians 1:15, it says Christ is the express image of the invisible God. So if He's invisible, it means you can't see Him. Jesus walked up to me one time, came and said, the whole sum of my earthly ministry is capsuled in John 17:6. I thought, boy, that's strange. I've read John 17:6. How could He say that? John 17:6 is a high priestly prayer. Christ was praying to His Father when He says, Father, I have manifested your name. Now, what does the word manifest means? Oh, it means make tangible, touchable, and seeable. So, God is invisible until Jesus came and made Him tangible, touchable, and seeable. See, Father God named Himself covenant reverential names. Example, Jehovah Rapha, the Lord our healer. Jehovah Shalom, the God of our peace. Jehovah Sitkanu, the God that sanctifies. Okay? Who's the Prince of Peace? Jesus. Who's the healer? Jesus. Who's the sanctifier? Jesus. See, Father God named Himself covenant reverential names. Jesus comes and gives flesh, form, and function to invisible God. That's why if you say, if you've seen me, you've seen the Father, I and the Father are one. Okay. Let's track this just a moment. God gave Jesus a body to make an invisible God known to man. Jesus took that body, lived a perfect, sinless life, carried it to the cross when He's 33 years old, was crucified, put into a grave, resurrected on the third day, walked and talked with the disciples. Remember the story? Carried them out to the Mount of Olives, Acts chapter 1, dialoguing with them, and all of a sudden He started levitating. He came up belt high, chest high, eye high, high. Remember? And they was carried out of their sight into the heavens. The disciples are going, golly! And He said, you men of Galilee, why stand you here gazing, gawking? This same Jesus which is taken up from you shall come again. Okay, remember, so He went up visibly and bodily, didn't He? Yes. Right in the midst of it. Yes. Okay, wait, hold it. Time out. God, you gave Jesus a body to make an invisible God known. He did. Then He carried Him back to heaven and sat down. Wait a minute. Have you left yourself without a witness? No. Contrary, who are we called the body of? Hey! Now you got it. Yeah. That's who we are. We are the body of Christ with the same mission He had. Amen. To make an invisible God known. As my Father sent me, even so now I'm sending you as He is. So are we in this present world. Yeah. See, people go, hey, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. Well, do the works of Jesus. Yeah. What are the works of Jesus? Matthew, 4:23. Here's a good, it says Matthew 4:23. It says Jesus did something. Oh, He went about. What a stroke of genius. He went about. Sickest plan of evangelism is to build a church and expect lost people to come. All right. Lame. Why would a lost person habitually come to church? That's like a fish living on the freeway. They don't. See? You understand that? Now, I'm all for church, but church is not for the lost people. That's like building an aquarium and going, where is the fish? See, we've got to be fishers of men. You believe that? I suggest we fish where they're schooling and jump what they're buying. Don't you think? Well, I'm all excited. What's your name? Bobby?
No, Poppy.
Poppy, like Poppy. P. That's good. What do you do, Poppy?
I'm an artist.
Are you? Me too. I draw stick figures. Yeah, you got find a piece of paper. I'll draw you something in a moment. Get a pen and a piece of paper. I'll draw you something. It'll be okay. And well, don't worry. It's all right. The Lord told me one time. He said, "You amused me, boy." That's what He said. One time he accused me of whining. You call it intercession. He called it whining. I would say, God, why do you make me do so many silly things? I thought he'd cuddle me and say, Bobby, you're such a champion. Guess what he said? He said, I've never yet presented you as stupid as you really are. That's what he said. Yep, that's exactly what he said. And he said, you don't even know what you're talking about. And he showed me the Old Testament prophets. Have you seen them? Nobody in their right mind would want to go camping with Ezekiel if he was cooking. That's right. I dare you to study that. You wouldn't want Ezekiel being the camp cook. Jeremiah went into a council meeting in a diaper. With a loincloth. What about poor old Hosea? He had to marry a girl that was a hooker, and her name was Gomer. I said, God, her name would have been bad enough, let alone the occupation. This is my wife, Gomer. Well, anyway, I'll tell you what he said when he said, you abused me, boy. I was preaching in Edmonton, Alberta, in the Civic Center, and it was really cold, minus 37 degrees, wind blowing hard. And so I'd been in the hotel. They drove me there in a van. I get out of the van, going into the entrance of the Civic Center, and it was so cold my nose hairs froze. And then when I got in there, they thawed out real quick and gave me a buzz. My head got light feeling, so I ran back out and froze them again. On the fourth trip, the Lord said, "That's what makes to amuse you, doesn't it?" I said, wow, I could have been sticking my head in the freezer all these years. I'll tell you what happened that night. It's history now. I'm in the Edmonton, Alberta Civic Center, and I'm supposed to be preaching, but I stopped preaching, I wheeled around, and started singing a Jed Clampett song. Up from the ground came a bubbling crude. And then I prophesied, I said, the oil is going to resurface out in the sand pits. Google it when you get to the house. They estimate, after the prophetic word, they estimate 73 billion barrels of oil have surfaced in the sand pits in Edmonton, Alberta. Right? See, when God gets ready to do a new move in any town, He sends the prophets. He sends them. Can I show it to you? Hey, I'll let one of you read it so they won't think it's just me making it up. Hey, I like that drum playing. See? You're a lot wilder than people think. In a good way, not bad. You're adventurous. You won't have to go through all the crud that other people are, No. Okay. Here we go. I want to show you how God brings a new move to town. Are y'all ready? Okay. I'll let somebody else read it so they won't think I'm just making it up. Okay? This is out of the Bible. It's Isaiah 48, verse 6. Now, who don't mind reading in public? I know Sister doesn't. She read last night. You got a microphone? Yeah. You don't mind reading this, do you? Come on, this will be good. Just this part, just see that. The theme is how God brings a move to West Columbia. How God brings a move to the world. Here we go. And that one right here.
You have heard these things foretold. Now you see this fulfillment. And will you not bear witness to it? I show you specified new things from this time forth, even hidden things kept in reserve, which you have not known. They are created now, called into being by the prophetic word, and not long ago, and before today you have never heard of them, lest you should say, behold, I knew them.
Hey, do you see that? How are they called into being? By the prophetic word. See, I tried to tell you last night or this morning, Amos 3:7. Surely, absolutely, positively, God will not do a single thing on earth without first revealing what He's going to do to His servants and prophets. So, if you're going to get a move of God, you have to get the prophets in. That's right. You know, there's whole denominations that don't believe in the prophetic. Straighten up here, look at it. Make these things blow up. And, you know, honest to God. And that's, I'll try not to wiggle. Yeah, I better use that. It don't matter. I am flexible. I'll take this off so it won't haul it around. Hey, I better take this off too. It'll be at the pawn shop before morning. Thanks, Josh. Man, good. Oh, no, I'm just doing that just to see if y'all are listening. It's okay. Don't worry. Don't worry, honestly. You know, I don't like to see people uptight worried. Did you read the back of the book, We Win? I mean, you know, there's not a toss-up. We win. We come out on top. We're more than a conqueror. Well, you know, preacher, I don't like all that. I don't like all that happiness. Well, I do. I do. You won't live long unless you do. Doctor, Google it. Doctors tell you have a good attitude and expect to live 35% longer. 8 years longer. Jesus said it this way, a merry heart does good like a... That's right. How do we get a merry heart? Psalms 16:11. In His presence is fullness of joy. At His right hand are pleasures forevermore. That's right. What do you do, this guy right here, the eagle on the shirt? Are you? Okay, can you believe me this? Remember I told you I had that cabin built? And angels were there? There's this musician, he's a famous musician. Ray Hughes is his name. He's got he probably knows more about music than anybody I know of alive. So he said, Bobby, could I come and stay in your cabin sometimes when you're not there? I said, oh, yeah, I will, Ray. You can stay there. But I said, you know, be careful. This is all the truth. So Ray comes. I'm gone somewhere in the world. So Ray comes to the cabin to stay, just to kind of get in tune, you know what I mean? 2 a.m. in the morning. Wham, wham, wham! Somebody's knocking on the door. Ray gets up, staggers to the door, opens the door. There stands a surveyor with a survey pole and says, hey, come out here in this road and hold this survey pole. So Ray goes, look at it. He's out in the middle of a dirt road, 2 a.m. in the morning, holding a survey pole. And he goes, wait a minute. No company's going to survey at 2 a.m. in the morning. And he realizes this is a spiritual thing. You believe see, Ray Hughes represents the psalmist, the music ministry in the body of Christ. You think it's time for them to get in the middle of the road and hold and stay the course? I'll guarantee it is. So that's Ray Hughes' story. That's true. What does a surveyor do? Mark out boundaries. The Bible said if the ancient landmarks be removed, what will the people do? Where there's no vision, where there's no landmarks, where there's no gate, people perish. We need God to mark out some landmarks, don't we? You believe the ancient landmarks are being dissolved and removed faster than you can imagine? Well, you know, so when God gets ready to bring a move of God to town, He does it. But none of this is the message. Honest to God, here's what I want to tell you, and I'll just stand here and tell you. The whole message tonight is Psalms 30, verse 5. Psalms 30, verse 5 says, weeping may last through the night, but joy comes in the morning. So I want to tell you, get ready to position yourself, align yourself for the dawning of a new day. Lamentation 3, 20 and 21 says, I have hope when I think about how good God is. His mercies are new every morning. Great is His faithfulness. Yeah. Lamentation 3. And so here's what He wants us to do. He wants us to think about how He can turn things around. Watch this. I want to show you a story in the Bible. And 2 Samuel 9, verse 1. It says, all of David's wars have been fought. King David. He's pushed down all of his enemies. And he's got a little time to think now. And he's kind of meditating on his kingdom rule. And then one day he goes, oh my God, I've got unfinished business. I made a covenant years ago with my best friend Jonathan. And I promised promised him I would show him kindness, I would show his descendants kindness, and I've been negligent on that promise.
Yeah.
Here it is. And David said, is there yet any that is left of the house of Saul, that I might show him kindness for Jonathan's sake? See, it says in 1 Samuel 20 that David and Jonathan made a covenant. Now, if you want to see a hero in the Bible, study Jonathan. He was the son of a king. He was heir to the throne, really.
Yeah.
And here's what happened. He realized that was not God's will.
Yeah.
He realized God's will was to put David on the throne. He could have been bitter and vindictive, saying, hey, that's my job, that's my place. But he knew it wasn't. And he started serving David in order to get him to God's position for him.
Yeah.
He gave up his place on the throne and served David so David could get it.
Yeah.
Pretty amazing. This Jonathan. You talk about I've never seen anything quite like it. There ought to be more books written about Jonathan. You talk about brilliant. He is brilliant. He recognized the anointing, was really willing to serve somebody else in order to get the will of God done. And here he was fearless. It says in the Bible that one time Jonathan, his armor bearer, was under a little cliff, and the Philistines were up there, just garrisons of them, thousands of them. And Jonathan, his armor bearer, had one sword among them. And I looked up the word sword. It means dikara, 18-inch knife. So here's what happened. Jonathan says to his armor bearer, I got a plan. What is it, boss? Here's the plan. We're going to step out from under this little conclave of rock. There's the enemy up there. There's a whole herd of them. And we're going to go, hey you! Hey you! If they say, come up here, we want to show you something, then we'll know we got them. Wait just a minute. Good God. 2 guys, 1 sword. An army armed to the teeth on the high place. We're going to step out and holler, hey you! If they say come up here, we know we got them. Now here is what I want to say. It says his armor bearer said, great! Whatever God's put in your heart to do, I'm with you. Boy, you let a pastor pull that now, people wear their thumbs out trying to text one of them. Hey, we better get, woo, call the elders meeting. Pastor lost his mind. You know they would. It'd be an elders meeting before morning. But see, we need some guys like Jonathan's armor bearer. Whatever God's put in your heart, I'm with you. You get a few folks like that, you can build the kingdom. So Jonathan stepped out and he goes, hey you! A garrison. It could have been 6,000. I don't know. There's so many of them, the whole army of Saul had run off. And here's what happens. Hey you! They look down and here's these 2 guys. One little sword among them. And so the enemy mockingly says, hey you boys, come up here. We got something to show you. Jonathan said, bless God, we got him. And it says in your Bible, they climbed on their hands and their knees up the rock face. If you ever thought that's the worst position to be in, crawling like an infant. They crawled up to meet the army, but it says when they got there, something happened. The glory of the God fell around and knocked the enemy down, and they just went by slewing them. Boom, boom. And they did such a slaughter till the rest of them started running so fast, dust cloud arose, and it reinvigorated the fleeing army of Saul. Remember that?
Yeah.
See, it don't take many to turn things around.
That's right.
So Jonathan, he's a hero in the Bible. But he made David make a covenant. David, swear to me that you'll show me and my family favor and kindness all their life. David said, well, I will. But now we find out David has forgotten about it. So he said, oh my God, unfinished business. 2 Samuel 9:2 says he called Ziba, a stenographer in his kingdom, a guy that kept records, and said, Ziba, is there any of the house of Saul who I could find? And Ziba was a servant, and when he had called him unto David, the king said unto him, are you Ziba? And he said, yeah, I'm Ziba, I'm the guy keeping records. Next verse. And the king said, is there not any of the house of Saul that I might show him kindness of God unto him? And Ziba said, yeah, by the way, yeah, Jonathan had a son, but he's lame in his feet. And the Hebrew word lame means, it means gnarled and worthless. And the kid's name was Mephibosheth. Study Mephibosheth. It means son of shame. Now here's how he got crippled.
when the word comes that Saul has been killed and Jonathan has been killed, a nurse, a woman assigned to tend to little Mephibosheth, and he's 5, she jerks him up. Now, she don't intend to do it. She was not malicious. She was not mean. She was just fearful. And she grabbed this little baby and this little 5-year-old toddler and starts running with him. And somehow, apparently, she failed, tripped, I don't know, but dropped him. Snapped his legs, and from that moment on, he crawls in the dirt. Now, here he is. He's a son of a king. That makes him a prince. The son of a king. He's destined to the throne, but guess where he's living? He's living in a place no human being should live. He's living in a city called Lodibar. Say it, Lodibar. Lodibar is a Hebrew word that means worthless, dry, barren, can't grow nothing. That's where he's living. Nobody in their right mind would want to live in Lodibar unless they were hiding out. And he's living with a man called Milcar, which means salesman in a bad way. It means he'll make money at any cost. Shyster would be our term. He's living with an uncle that's a shyster. That's who he's living with. I don't know how old he is. I know he's way past 5. I know he could be in early 30s. Never taken a step since he's 5. He's always been hid out in Lodibar, dry, barren place. Let's go there. Why is he there? Because, see, when one king overtakes another dynasty, they kill every descendant, don't they? So he thinks if David ever finds me, he'll slit my throat, drag my dead body, hang me off a gate. So he's fearful of David, isn't he? Because when one king would conquer another king, they would kill all descendants. But David's a man after God's own heart, a different person. And so he's searching for Mephibosheth not to be malice and mean, but to be very beneficial to him. So he sends Ziba out there to Lodibar. Let's stand there for a moment, outside the shack where Mephibosheth is living. Hot, blistering desert. No grass, no trees. No mooing of the cows. It's just a barren, hot, blistering desert. They see some dust clouds way out in the distance. Somebody looks, shelters their eyes, and says, whose flag is that? Who could be coming here to Lodibar? Gets a little closer. Oh no. That's David's flag. That's the flag of the king. Here they come. They come right up to the house. With a voice of authority, they say, Mephibosheth live here. Somebody with a weak, trembling voice says yes. Next statement is, bring him out. Can you imagine how he feels? Well, this is it. I've stayed hidden, crawling in the dust all these years, only to come to this. Now remember, weeping may last through the night, but see, we're going to show you everything can change in one day. See, he thinks Ziba's there to get him. He's there to get him all right, but not in a punitive way. He's there in a protective way, a way of privilege. He says, are you Mephibosheth? Yes, I am. He said, come on, I'm carrying you to the king. And when Mephibosheth is brought before the king, you can hear his own equation of himself. He says, he fell in the dust, and he says, what have you to do with such a dead dog as me? Do you hear the wounds in his voice? Do you hear how shattered his life is? He looked at himself as worthless as a dead dog. And David says, get up, get up. I'm not here to hurt you. Here's what I want to do. I want you to become one of my sons. He said, you are going to eat bread at my table from this time on.
Hallelujah.
And he says to Ziba, hey Ziba, here's what I want you to do. I want you to look in all the books and find everything Saul had and give it to him.
Yes.
Hey! Everything his grandfather had became Mephibosheth's in a single day. And then he said to Ziba, you and your 20 sons, serve him and work for him the rest of your life. Our God will restore. You believe it? Yes. Joel 2:25, God says, I will restore all that the cankerworm has eaten. See? And it says that Mephibosheth ate at the king's table the rest of his life. Wouldn't you have loved to have been that first night at the banquet? You pulled the banquet door open. There's the king's table. There's all of his sons. Oh, there's a new one down at the end of the table. Why, it's Mephibosheth. You don't see his lame legs. Where's his lame legs? Under the king's table. See, all of our shame. All those things. Now, let's talk about you just a moment. Maybe somebody mishandled you. Oh, your legs are not crippled, but spiritually. Some wounds are there. See, his legs were physically damaged. But some of you, maybe somebody mishandled you. Maybe somebody in authority, maybe they didn't even mean it. But they dropped you, so to speak. All these years you've been living in exile. Away from the promises of God, the provisions of God, the table of God. I'm here to tell you God can turn it around in one moment. I'm telling you, he did for Mephibosheth, didn't he? I can show you many examples in the Bible. Prison one night, palace the next. See, God turns things around. Weeping may last through the night, but joy comes in the morning. He can turn your situation around. One of the ways to get him to do it is praise him. Bless him. Thank him. So, do you see that? Oh, Mephibosheth, bless his heart. I'm so thankful that he got restored, aren't you? There's one other story, and then we'll get out. You remember, I hate to even bring this one up. 2 Kings 6. Worst famine recorded in human history. A king named Ben Hadad has circled the city of Samaria and cut off all the routes of food, all the routes, and they're starving inside there. Inside Samaria, they're starving. A donkey head, they pay 4.4 pounds of silver for a donkey head. No food at all. It is so severe. They're boiling their children and eating their children. Worst famine mentioned in human history. Worst famine mentioned in human history. They're boiling their children. We find in 2 Kings 6 a king walking on the wall in despair because he can't help his people. And a woman screaming, "King, sir, help me, help me." And he looks at her and he says, "Dear woman, I can't help you. There's no food, nothing. I can't help you. What is ailing you? Why are you so tore up?" I can't believe it. Here's why she was so tore up. Here's what she said. Is this thing on? I've knocked it out. Yeah, we're down to number 3. Here we go. Here we go. Why is she screaming? I'll tell you why she's screaming. She said, this woman here, she said to me yesterday, "Let's boil your son and eat him." And we did. And she said, "We'll boil mine today." And she's hid her son from me. My God. How barbaric can you get? You can't get more desperate than that. Boiling your children. So, it says in 2 Kings, chapter 7, verse 1, it starts with the English word T-H-E-N. What is it? Then! Right in the midst of the famine. Then. Right in the midst of the famine, a prophet stands up and says, "About this time tomorrow, be more food here." They'll be basically giving it away. Good God. Then Elisha said, "Hear the word of the Lord. Thus said the Lord, tomorrow about this time, a measure of fine flour shall be sold for a shekel, and 2 measures of barley for a few pennies." Wow. So here we go. Let's break this down. Problem, famine. See it? Promise, about this time tomorrow. How's the provision going to come? We got a problem, famine. Got a prophetic promise, plenty of food. Where's the powerful people that's going to cause it to happen? Boy, this is something else. Watch this. Next verse, please, if you would. Then a counselor, a wise man on whose the king leaned, said, "Hey, this can't happen. This guy's blowing off steam. Even if God ripped up the heavens, he couldn't do it." The prophet said, "Okay, you'll see it, but you won't get to participate." Yeah. And he said, "Behold, you'll see it, but you will not get to eat of it." Next verse, please. And there were 4 lepers outside of the gate. My God. How do they come into the picture? We're in a city where people are starving. We need somebody to come in and save the day. Here he comes to, you remember that? That's what we think. We need some big time evangelist jet in and change the situation. No, that's not how God does it. God chooses the weak to confound the wise. So here he is, 4 lepers. So advanced is their sickness, they're outside of the gate, exiled out of the starving town. Now let's look at them. There they are. They're falling apart at the seams. Larry, you're half the man you were yesterday. You're all thumbs, you know. The leprosy eats their flesh away. So there they are. And here they started dialoguing. They said, if we lay here, we're going to die. If we go back in there in Samaria, we're going to starve. Yeah. Our only course of action is to go out and challenge an unseen army. Yeah. And so they said, let's do that. Yeah, so here they go. Now who is it? 4 limping lepers. Why sit here till we die? Next verse. If we say we'll enter into the city, the famine's there and they'll kill us. And if we sit here, we're going to die. Now therefore come. Let us fall into this army of the Syrians. If they save us alive, we'll live. If they kill us, we'll die. Do you understand none of us get out of this alive?
All right.
See that? Now look what happens. Next verse, please. And they rose early in the twilight to go into the camp of the Syrians. Now who's coming? 4 limping lepers. Come on. They're going out to challenge an army, armed to the teeth. These little lepers don't have nothing but courage. So there they go. And it says, and when they, the limping lepers, came to the entering into the camp of the Syrians, behold, there was not a single person there. My God, what happened to them? Did 4 lepers scare them off? No. What scared them off? God caused them to hear the sounds of chariots, horses, rumbling. See, who's coming? 4 limping lepers. Now look at it, verse 6. For the Lord had made the host of the Syrians to hear the noise of chariots and horses, even the noise of great mighty army. And they said one to another, whoa, we got to get out of here. No. And they took off and left all their treasure. Left the turkey basting in the oven. Left all the baked bread, the Rolex there, the Hummer over there, the Lear out there. You know, left everything. Do you see it? You see it? And they said one to another, Lord, the king of Israel has hired against us the kings of the Hittites and all this. And verse 7, look. Therefore they rose and fled in the twilight and left their tents and their horses and their donkeys, even the camp as it was, and fled for their life. See? I told you when I first came, God's looking for somebody weak enough to work in.
Praise God.
See? Not weak in character, but weak in our own ability.
Yeah.
See, we've got to realize He's not going to do it through our strength, but His. Now look there. They get there to an empty camp, and everything they want is there in abundance. Look at verse 8. And when these lepers came into the uttermost part of the camp, they went into one tent and did eat and drink and carried what? Silver and gold and clothing, and went and hid it and came again and entered into another tent, did the same thing then and did it again and again. Look, next verse, verse 9. Ding, the light went on. They said one to another, ooh, we do not well this day. Is a day of good tidings, and we're holding our peace. If we tarry till morning, something bad will happen to us. This is not just for us, they said. What about all of our brothers shut in back there? See, the Spirit-filled life is not just for us.
Yeah.
It's for the desperate hungry. So they go back and convince them to open the gate. Remember that? But see, just like the prophet said about this time tomorrow, what a difference a day can make.
Yeah.
From famine to feasting. Just like that. See? Weeping may last for the night, but joy comes. I'm trying to get you positioned for the dawning of a new day. Well, you ready for a new day? Yes. I'll tell you, here's what the Lord told me. He said, you tell my people, prepare to be surprised. So prepare to be surprised. Yeah, you believe He can surprise us? Oh, He is going to. And I'm glad. We need it, though. Yeah, good. Oh, you got your paper? Yeah. thought I'd forgot, didn't you? Mine like a steel trap. Just draw a mark and I'll draw you something, okay? Just make a mark on it and I'll draw you something out of your mark. What do you think? Here, hold this up. Just make a mark, just some kind of random mark, and I'll draw something for you. Hey, that's not it. Go ahead, I'll draw it though. She drew one little straight line. You see this? Okay, hold on, watch this. I'll draw you something. Okay, where we at? Texas. Okay, I got to draw some guy from Texas. Okay, go hat here. That's a Texas style hat. There's a feather. And Texas guys, they got some sideburns, sort of like Elvis. Okay. There it is. See, can you see that? That's right. I tell people if they wasn't born in Texas, get there as quick as you can. Yeah, East Texas, that's where I'm from. Anyway. Yeah. Well, we got to get out here. It's kind of late. I like your lid. That's kind of nice. God bless you. Well, anyway. I like these girls over here. What's your names? Reva.
No, Reva.
Reva. Let me tell you something now. Don't get offended unless you have to. I like black people's names. Yeah. You ask them, what's your name? Roshandalalabra. What does it mean, honey? One that jumps over the mountain, pulls down the back. You know, their names mean something. Look at us white guys. We name our kids Opie and Beaver. Hey, something's wrong with that, ain't there? Anyway. I know. That's right. I have some of my best friends are black preachers. Man, I love them. They're wild. I like it. I like old T.D. Jakes. I like anybody who sweats more than me. One thing about them black guys, they got somebody who plays while they preach.
Yeah.
Look at us white guys, not even a CD. Black guys say something halfway good. You know? Yeah. Anyway. I need all the help we can get. Anyway. That's fun. And you go, oh, listen, no, it's okay. They can look at me and tell I'm a redneck, you know. That don't stop God from loving you. Yeah. Me and my brother used to sit in the backyard and shoot cigarettes out of one another's mouth with a .22 rifle. My mom would come to the door and holler, "Hey! You boys quit wasting them shells. They cost money." They say a thing about shooting Bobby in the mouth or Glenn in the side of the head. Yeah. We grew up rough, man. God bless your heart. We grew up rough. Well, good, but I'm glad we grew up. So y'all doing good? Good. What are you doing? Safety what? Oh, okay, good. I didn't know what it was. Yeah, that's it's a plant. Is it a chemical plant or something like that? I used to work at an anhydrous ammonia plant, you know, where they took gas and made ammonia and ammonia nitrate and then found out you blow up half the world with that, you know. You didn't know nothing about nothing, you know. Yeah, honestly. I worked there, yeah. My kids, when they said, "What did you do when you used to work?" Like what I do now is not work, you know. But what did you do when you used to work? And I worked at that anhydrous ammonia plant. Well, I actually worked at two jobs. I loaded boxcars, and then I worked in maintenance, you know. But anyway, now I'm here. You doing okay? Me too. God bless you. Well, we got to go in a minute. Y'all not in a rush, are you? No. Today's what? I got to catch a plane in the morning, so don't let me forget that. What you need? What do you do, Sarah? That's a wonderful thing. God bless you. I got two kids. One's 48, one's 43. Good Lord. Yeah. Seems like yesterday they were little toddlers. Did I tell you when I cooked for them? My wife got sick. Well, she just got sick with I don't know what it was. But she was back there in the bed. Women are funny. Let me tell you what happened to my wife. Now, she's back there with the flu, back in bed. And so she's back there in the back bedroom, and it was all covered up. And I hear, "Bobby! Bobby! Bobby!" I thought, that's her. I better go see about her. So I go and open the door, and she's all bundled up in bed. She said, "Would you do something for me?" I said, "Yes." I thought maybe bring her a Tylenol or some 7-Up or something, you know. she's got the fever and the flu. You know, honey, could you do something for us? Yes, baby. What do you want? Now listen to this. She said, would you clean off the top of the refrigerator? What? Would you clean off the top of the refrigerator? I didn't even know we had one. You know what I mean? But one time she had gone to this Bible conference, a woman's Bible conference, and left me with the kids. They were little then, you know, they were little. I don't know, they were pretty about like that. And so that's when you could buy potato chips in a 5-gallon drum. So we buy them potato chips, and they get soggy before you could eat them all. So So my wife's gone, and I thought, I got to cook supper for the boys. So I got to ramming in the cabinet, and I found cream of chicken soup. So I got me a can of cream of chicken soup, and I thought, I'm going to heat that up, and I'll take them soggy potato chips, and I'll pour that soup over them. So that's what I decided. I set their little bowls out, and I filled it with that little greasy potato chips. Then I poured in the cream of chicken soup, put them a spoon there and a glass of water, and I said, hey, come on, boys, supper's ready. Here they came running through the house like a little herd of cows, running through there, and they plopped down at the table, and they grabbed their things, and dropped their things. And the oldest one, he said, Daddy, this is horrible. So me being this loving parent, I said, boy, eat that or I'm going to bust your butt. That's what I said. Boy, eat that or I'm going to bust your butt. Guess what he said? Daddy, I'd rather have a whooping. That's what he said. So I thought, I'm going to taste that. I took a bite of that. Good Lord, it was horrible. Honest to God, I poured it out and my bird dogs wouldn't even eat it. Bird dogs ran up there and whoo, they took off with it. So I went and got them a hamburger. But anyway, bless their hearts. Then I decided to cook rice one time. Yes. Yeah. Wife's gone, I'm going to cook rice. I don't know nothing about cooking. We have electric stoves. So I read the box. It says, put some water and some salt and some butter in there and boil it. So I got me a pan about this big around. I put some butter and some salt, and I turned her on high, man. About this big around. So I was looking at the rice now. 2-pound rice. And I thought, that would be enough for us. So I poured 2 pounds of rice in a little stew. Good Lord, you talk about expand. Whoa! It ran over into the electronic grill, whatever that is, and yeah. It smelled like a dope den, man. Good Lord. That is awful. Burned up the rice. Anyway, thank God I don't have to cook. I'm hot, man. But anyway, I'm going to pray for people. Y'all hot? I pour out 3 microphones. I guess it's time to quit. Hey, did you hear about the preacher? Watch this. He preached on television, and so he would want to preach around 28 minutes, and so he didn't want to keep looking at his watch, so he decided he could put in a throat lozenge, and he preached about 28 minutes, and when it dissolved, he knew it was time to cut off the program. So one day he popped one, he preached, spit it out as a button. Hey! One more story. Well, no, I don't know more stories. I like that song that you were singing. Yeah. Just rolling out of you. You like that. I had a friend that would rap. Good Lord. Did I tell you when I got on the elevator with MC Hammer? Y'all remember MC Hammer in his heyday? I mean, when you can't touch this. Remember that? So Hammer, he was a cutting edge rapper then. So I get on the elevator, and he's got the guy with him who had the long wavy hair. So I'm at a Benny Hinn meeting. So I get in the elevator, and I'm not talking in tongues. I'm just standing there like this. MC Hammer's right here, and the other guy's over there. I'm looking at the floor. And old Hammer goes, "Hey, man, what is that?" See, I'm looking at the floor. "Hey, man, what is that?" Then he answered his own question. He said, "Well, it's the Holy Ghost, ain't it?" I said, "Yes, it is." He said, "That's real, ain't it?" I said, "It's the realest thing in the whole world." He said, "Would you do something for me?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Would you come down here and get on my bus and tell my crew?" We're at the bottom of a civic center. I go down there. Good God, I never smelled so much cologne in my life. Never seen so many gold chains in my life. And I got to stand there on his bus and preach Jesus. MC Hammer's preaching now. See? We got to be instant in season now. Yeah, one time I was with Billy Graham. I know y'all find this hard to believe, but it's true. And I'm doing it with Billy Graham, doing one of those schools of evangelism things. I get on the elevator, so help me God, Hulk Hogan. See, he's going over there to do a fight. And he's all lathered up and got that, he's tanner than a brown monkey. And he's all ready, so there he is. And the Lord said, talk to him. I said, God, I don't want to get involved with Hulk Hogan. So I didn't. Now watch this. Next night, so help me God. Dr. Graham gets up to the podium. He says, guess what? I got on the elevator. Guess who was there? Hulk Hogan. He said, I went back to his room and we had a good talk about Jesus. See, I could have had that, but I didn't want to get messed up with Hulk Hogan. Billy Graham didn't mind it, you know. Did I tell you when I got to go to wrestling? Well, or two. I'll come back next year and do it. Yes, I got me and Rick Joyner. Y'all know Rick Joyner. That's when Reggie White was going to wrestle. So we go to the Charlotte Civic Center. They bring a limousine and bring us up there to the Charlotte Civic Center. And Reggie's going to wrestle. So they got a whole bunch of buses back in the back of the convention center for them wrestlers to get. So me and old Rick Joyner get back there. Oh, Buddy Landell and I don't know, all of the Ric Flair. And then Macho Randy Savage. He was there. All them crazy. This is Dave anyway. So we talk to him, and so we go out there now. There's, I don't know, there was some 30 or 40,000 people in the arena. So they said to me and Rick, now here's what you're going to do. Saturday Night Raw, you know, they said, you're going to walk down this tunnel, you turn left, and your seats will be right there. You know, they put these VIP things on us. You hear me in old Joyner, we go. We're walking down the tunnel. See, I've never been to a wrestling match my whole life. And I said to Rick, was it left or right we're supposed to turn? Oh. He said, I think it's left. He said, but I believe it's right. I said, I think you're right. So we turned right instead of left. And I thought, well, I didn't see no seats. But I could hear the crowd going, roar. So help me God, me and Joyner walked right out into the arena. Just like the wrestlers do, you know, when they come out of that smoke. You know, Joyner Bob down there. You could hear the crowd. Woo! Listen, hissing and booing. Yeah. That's all. That's true. Not. See, honest to God truth. Did I tell you when I wrestled a bear? You want to hear it? Yes. Time, don't let me miss a plane. Here's what happened. Honest to God truth. I was raised up here in East Texas in Murkison, a little town between Athens and Tyler. When I grew up there, it had 202 people. I went back the other year and it's up to 598. That thing's in a growth spurt. Man, anyway. In Murkison, I was famous for two things. I could pick up the front end of a Chevy 2 car off the ground, and I could knock a horse out with one punch. Yeah, I know it's awful. They put me in the pen for that now. But it happened as a fluke. I used to ride horses for people, and this horse kept rearing up, and the guy that owned it, he said, well, I can't say what he said, but he said, hit that thing. So I'm sitting on this horse, and I hit it and knocked it out, sitting on it. So it falls over with me on it. So we get back to Roy Taylor's station, and Hollis Adair was there. You don't know him, Snooks Harville, y'all didn't meet him. Anyway, so Roy Taylor says to Hollis Adair, Connor knocked the horse out with one lick. Snooks Harville over there leaning against the Dr. Pepper thing. He goes, I'll bet you $20 he can't knock my horse out. $20 make a house payment nearly. So Hollis Adair said, I'll bet you can. So I'm just caught in the middle. So help me. Snooks Harbor goes, gets this old horse, crazy looking thing, brings it back there, and I thought, okay, I'm going to get a part of this 20, for knocking the horse out. Wham! Down it goes. Got me about $12. So I started on Saturday knocking horses out for money. I could knock a horse out with one punch, and I could pick up the front end of a car. So, back then, they don't do it now, but back then, they would bring a Russian bear around in the tough man contest, and you'd wrestle the bear. Yeah. So they bring him to Murkison. And the guy's kind of a carny guy. He goes, Where's your tough man? He can't whip my bear. They go, Connor can. So we go down to the baseball field. I mean, they turned the stadium lights on. Everybody showed up, packed out the bleachers. They bet their money, hard-earned money, because I could knock a horse out and pick up the front end of the car. So this is all the absolute truth. The guy that owned the bear, he lived in the back of a bus. The guy lived in the front, the bear lived in the back, and the guy drive around the towns. Anyway, this is all true. Bear's about this much taller than me, real big Russian bear. So the guy that owned the bear said, now listen, if you try to hurt him, he's going to hurt you. But if you play with him, he'll play with you. Now see, I never got into anything to play. You know what I mean? So I told my guys, don't worry, bet everything you got. I'm knocking this bear out. We'll have the money, we'll be out of it. That's the plan. So they put some muzzle around the old bear, and they took his claws and turned it over like that and put some stuff on him. So he's sitting over there on his bucket, just lazy. I'm on my bucket. I'm excited. I am excitable. I get so excited you can thread a sewing machine and run it. That's pretty exciting. So anyway, ding! That's round one. I jump up off my bucket. Here's the old bear. He's getting up like this. And I drew back and cocked this bear in the side of the head with everything I had. I'd knocked out hundreds of horses. Wham! It hit this bear in the side of the head. You know, he's supposed to have crumpled. But he goes, just like that. And he looked at me like, oh, that's how we're playing this. And he goes, wham! Hit me right there, right there. If he'd hit me there, I'd still be unconscious. Hit me right here. Nearly knocked me out of the ring. Boom, boom, boom. Boy, I'll tell you, the whole life just spinning around like this. They get me and drag me to my bucket. Old bear's sitting on his. I'm about to throw up. It hurt me, man. And my gang said, what happened? I said, I don't know. I said, but I know what's fixing to happen. Here's what's going to happen. Ding! When the bell rings again, I'm running over there, and I'm going to hit this bear with my shoulder like this, and I'm going to pick him up, and I'm going to step him on. See? I can pick up a car. This is all the truth. Ding! Round two. I jump up, no bear's getting up, and I run across there, and I hit him with everything I had. He was supposed to come up off the ground, but he didn't. He did this. Wham! Grabbed me like this, jerked me up off the ground, and went, squeezed every bit of the air out of me. Every bit. Then he flung me down to the mat, and then it's bad. Cover your ears. This is what happened. I'm down on the mat going, and he squats down over me and rubs his wet bear butt right in my face. That's the end of the fight. I lost the fight, lost everybody's money, lost my reputation. Nobody's afraid of me. Honest to God. Yeah. That's crazy. Yeah. Yeah. So you can't make up a story like this. I grew up really, really rough. Did I tell you that? Oh man, I was probably 19 or 20, something like that. Big old ruddy kid. Good Lord. But we grew up rough up there. Y'all remember Chester, do you? Chester Kenny had a long beard. We rode motorcycles, and he tied behind his head and ride the motorcycle. He got his nose cut off. Y'all remember that? We got in a knife fight, and I got whoosh, trying to cut his throat, and missed his throat, hit him right across here, and his nose fell down his pocket. All of this fell down just like that. Yes. Horrible. Wild stuff. Yeah, but it happened. Chester, he's still living. Yeah, it didn't kill him. They sewed his nose back on. But anyway, he married a gal named Lorraine. I'll show you a redneck. You want to see a redneck? This is the honest to God, so help me truth. Chester still has a beard, but it's not red, it's gray now. And it's down to his belly button. Shaggy, daggy old beard. Chester's a skinny guy. And he bought him an automatic pea sheller. It looks like an old-fashioned washing machine with the rollers. And you stick the peas in there, and it rolls them out the other side, pushes the peas out of the hull. You ever seen them? But they really are automatic pea shellers. Say it, automatic pea sheller. Now, he married Lorraine. Lorraine is out on the Kubota mowing the yard. And Chester decides to run the pea sheller. And so he turns it on, and he's running the pea suit and gets his beard caught in the pea shell. And you can't get to the cutoff. And he's screaming. And he's screaming. His wife's on a Kubota tractor mowing the yard. And it's pulling Chester into this. Now, you're a redneck if you get your beard caught in a pea shell. But he screamed long enough and loud enough, Lorraine heard him, got off the Kubota, and killed the thing before it sucked Chester in. Now, if you're looking for definition of redneck, that ought to be it. That's the honest to God truth, Chester Kennedy. Can I tell you one other Chester story? Listen to me. Now, I wouldn't lie to you. We're in church. Back then, when we were kids, you could buy cars at wrecking yards for nearly nothing, and they ran.
Yeah.
So we buy these old cars, cut the fenders off of them, and drive through the woods in them, drive down dirt roads, run through fences, kind of destruction derby. This is all true. So we bought this old Lincoln, chopped the things off of it. We'd been on a joyride. We got back up to Chester's house. Chester had a little red-headed sister. I can't remember her name. She's always squealing. She had her tricycle under a plum bush over there. Now, this is all the truth. There's her tricycle, and I thought, if I took a rope and tied to the neck of that tricycle and hooked it on the bumper of that Lincoln, we could drive around the yard and it'd be fun. Do you see it? So this is all true, so I'll go get the tricycle. I tie the rope on the tricycle to the bumper, and we start around the yard. Boring. So I said to Chester, pull out on the road! Highway 31 is right by Chester's house. If you know anything about Highway 31, between Athens and Tyler's a hill called Murray Hill. That's the top where Chester lived. He pulled out on the highway. I rode a tricycle 82 miles an hour. Hey! 82 miles an hour down a highway. Hooked to the back of a Lincoln. Yeah. I'm hunched over it like this. This thing's going. Yeah. You see? You have to be innovative to have fun like that. I'm not lying. See? I know we got to get out here. See, you want prophets to be serious. Chill out. It's going to be. I'm hot as a cricket. It's going to be okay, isn't it? I'll meet you at the book table after a while. I'll sign your books and stuff like that. But God wants you to realize, I don't care how big a mess you're in now, there's a new day coming. Yeah. Here's your word. Don't let the pains of the past keep you from the victories of the future. Yeah. Don't let the pains of the past keep you from the victories of the future. God wants to bring you to a new day. You believe it? Yes. He really can rectify things. I promise you that. All of us really need to understand every good thing we have is because of Him. So He wants to heal the sick. He wants to encourage the discouraged. Acts 27 verse 21 says, there's a people on some boats, and the ship was so storm-ridden, it said they'd lost all hope. It said all hope that they'd be spared was gone. What are you going to do in a mess like that? I'll tell you what Paul did. He stood on the deck and said, there stood by me this night the angel of the Lord, and he gave them a positive message in the middle of a big mess. Acts 27:21. He said, cheer up, it's going to be all right. So that's my message to you. Cheer up, it's going to be all right. That's good. Got to get out of here now. Well, I told you last night I can break sleep disorder off of any human being. Another anointing I carry is I can break barrenness. If you're being unable to conceive, I can break that off of you, and you can raise a family from your own loin. So now, if you need that, tell me and I'll do it for you. If you need children, this is honest to God truth. This is true. So, it's better than fertility drugs. The absolute truth. Yep. A lot of times I can just walk by you and speak it on you. It's true. So anybody here that's incapable of having children? You know somebody?
Yes. My son has sleep apnea.
Okay.
And they're childbearing.
Okay.
They can't have kids.
You got a piece of cloth or something? I have to keep the one I preach with, but I'll pray over a piece of cloth and we'll send it to them. You remember in Acts 19, they took off the body of Paul, aprons and handkerchiefs? We've seen dead people raised with them. Hey, look out now. Hebrews 13:8 says, I'll just pray over something you got, okay? And you can put it on, okay? There you go. Now, this is stated in the Bible. Hebrews 13:8 says Jesus Christ is the same yesterday, today, and forever. If He did in Paul's day, He'll do it in Bobby's day. So, Father, you've heard the the request of this man. Said his son has sleep apnea, and the daughter-in-law is incapable of bearing children. So Lord, you said you lay your servants down to sleep would be sweet, so we send out the word of God and heal him from this sleep disorder. And we break a spirit of barrenness right now. We say be fruitful and multiply. And we thank you, Lord Jesus. Give them children from their own loin in Jesus' name. We thank you. Here we go. Good? Yep. Yep. I got pictures of kids on my phone that they said, that's impossible. We can't have kids. Nah. Luke 1:37. Luke 1:37 says, with men, you can put it up there. With men it's impossible, but with God. See, that's what the angel was saying to Mary. How can I get pregnant? I've not known a man. That's what well, anyway. That's Luke 1:37. He said, with men things are impossible, but with God. That's what. That's right. So we got to get out of here. Adios! Okay, well, I'm not ready to leave, but I better quit. I like this guy. What do you do? What are you studying? What are you studying in high school? Getting out? Hey! What are you going to do in school when you get out of school? What are you going to do? What are you going to study? I want to know. What? Oh, man, I'll tell you what. Remember the movie Avatar? That movie? The Lord told me the mechanics of that movie he's going to use. Not the movie, but the mechanics of the movie. Okay? Remember Avatar? See, that way you can do Bible stories with that kind of animation. So study that. I wrote in the Shepherd's Rod for 2013 that God was going to use YouTube to train thousands and multiplied thousands of the new warriors. And so that's going to happen. It goes through two gates, eye gate and ear gate, when you see it. You believe that? So go get after it, okay? Say animation. That's right. What's your name? What do you do, Destiny?
I'm also in high school. I want to be a missionary to India.
That's a good thing. Oh, I got all kind of. I go to India. Good Lord, crazy stuff. They're hungry though. They come by the tens of thousands. Yep, crazy. But it's good. Big revival among young people in the Himalayas even. Isn't that something? I went to Mongolia. They'd never arrested a Christian in the history of Mongolia. It was the murder capital of the world when I went. Mighty revival going on in Mongolia right now. Well, anyway. Adios, amigos. I had fun. Thanks for inviting us. I'll pray for you. Here's what I'll pray. I pray the eyes of your heart will be flooded with revelatory light. You'll have a grasp and a comprehension of the call of God. That's Ephesians 1:17-18. I'll pray Ephesians 5:14-15-16. I pray that you'll walk with goal, aim, and true purpose. That you'll not walk vague, but you'll have a goal in your life. Okay? What's the goal in our life? To please Him. To be fully pleasing to Him in all that we do. So I really want you to understand you got purpose. God chose you to live in this present time to forge the future. You believe it? Yes. That's true. I like the kid right here. What's your name?
Josh.
What do you do, Josh?
I'm in high school.
Well, I was. I took Algebra 2 times a day for 4 years. Algebra 1, actually. So what are you going to do when you get out?
I'm going to a ministry college in California.
Which one?
Bethel School of Supernatural Ministry.
Oh, man. I've been there a time or two. I went to the first class they ever had. I stood there and they had 37. I thought they had 28. Bill told me they had 37. And I stood there in the church and prophesied. I said, oh, Bill, one day your school will outgrow this church and you'll have to let them meet here and you'll have to move somewhere else. They had 37 kids there now. Now they had exactly what I prophesied. They had to move over to they let the kids move to the Civic Center. Isn't that crazy? So we go out there and preach. I love Bill and those guys. I'm the one that preached about the glory cloud. I stopped and said, why, Bill, one day there'll be a glory cloud here. And, you know, it showed up 19 times since then. Millions of people have seen it by YouTube. Isn't that something? That's a great place. We love those guys. They're wild and wonderful. Bill came to that cabin I told about and wrote his first book. Yeah, When Heaven Touches Earth. Yeah, isn't that something? Went to the cabin that I told y'all about. Isn't that something? Well, anyway. What do you do? Did I ask you that? Well, Teen Challenge. Yeah. I have a ministry headquarters up in Bullard. They used to have it over there at Lindale. So that's good. Oh, Ron Luce, is he around there still? That's the different. He used to be a guy named Ron Luce. And anyway, got to get out of here. I like the girl back there. She's thinking, my God, if I wasn't in the middle, I'd already left. Yes! What's your name?
Misty.
Thank you for coming, Misty. I want you to know something. God really, really, I see a swirl around you, a good one, not a bad one. And here's what's going to happen. He said from this night on, life is going to become manageable.
Praise
You go,
God.
my God, I don't think I can keep up this pace. Your life is going to become manageable. Have you ever seen a rat on a wheel?
Yes.
That's how you feel like your life is. You think, my God, I can't keep this up. God don't intend for you to. From this night on, He's going to make your life manageable. So that's a wonderful thing. Isn't that good? That's really good. Thank God for that. A hamster on a wheel. I got bit by a hamster once. I know I got stories forever. My little grandson, Brandon, he taught with lids back then. So when he was little like that, he said, Papa, preach, would you buy me a living hamster? Papa, preach, would you buy me a living hamster? I said, well, sure, Brandon. I'll buy you a living hamster. Okay, guess what happened? I forgot it. He calls me. He said, Papa, preach, you lied to me. I said, no, Brandon, I didn't lie to you. He said, you told me you'd buy me a living hamster. My birthday came, no hamster. Christmas came, no hamster. I thought, oh my God, I lied to this kid. I said, Brandon, I'm going to get you a hamster. I'm off in another part of the world. I called his mother. I said, you go down to the pet shop and get a hamster. So she calls me back and says, Bobby, I went to the pet shop. The hamster is $20-something. The cage is $78. I said, you get the hamster in the cage. So I got him a living hamster. My son said, I hate that hamster. He said, it sleeps all day and runs all night on a wheel. So I finally get back from some part of the world and I go down to see Brandon's hamster. Little Brandon, you know, bless his heart. He got healing from his talking like that. And so anyway, I want to see that $100 hamster. So I said, where's your hamster, Brandon? He said, he's asleep. I said, where's he at? He said, he's in that ball of stuff there. I said, I want to see him. He said, he'll bite you. Now listen, I paid $100 for a hamster. I want to see a hamster. My little grandson said, Papa, breathe, he'll bite you. I said, listen, you know, I own that hamster. Can you see these scars right here? Can you see these scars right there? That's a hamster bite. See the two scars right there? Yeah. Here's what happened. That hamster's asleep, the ball of twine. I stuck my finger. That $100 hamster that bit through this finger right here, and I slammed that thing. It knocked cage, wheel, hamster. My grandson said, I told you. $100. I don't know whatever happened to hamster, but anyway. Don't lie to your grandkids, okay? Bless his heart. Ooh, boy. Well, anyway, I want to pray for you, okay? I want you to say, Lord, I trust you. Your plans for me are better than mine. I yield myself to you. I thank you, Lord. You'll heal my body. You'll restore my soul. You'll make my mind clear. You'll take away from me fear and anxiety. And I'll have peace that surpasses all understanding. That's what's going to happen to you. God's going to give you peace that transcends all the chaos of the earth. That's really true. It's Philippians 4, 6 through 8. Well, we got to go. Adios.
Amen. That was awesome. Let's go.